Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel today. In today's video, I'm going to be doing my thoughts and my review on the Tarte Shape Tape Foundation as well as the eye primer. This launch has made the news recently and I really wanted to share my thoughts on it. A lot of other people have, and I'm proud of the beauty community for speaking up on this matter. And I did debate doing a video myself, kind of thinking that, is it really going to make a difference if I say anything? And you know what? Despite that, I decided that I would post this anyway, because not only do I believe in this message wholeheartedly, but I also have some different opinions on how the products have actually worked for me as well. So first off, if you guys didn't already know, which I'm sure you know already, Tarte released a statement a little while ago saying that they were going to be expanding their Shape Tape collection. Unfortunately, how the product was promoted and as well as launched has been incredibly disappointing. It all started with this picture, which is an arm that has all of the available shades that the foundation was going to be released in. As you can see from the picture, there is a lot of shades that cater to lighter skin tones, and literally there is basically nothing for darker skin tones. As a consumer, I was really hoping that this release would have a lot of different shades so that anybody that really wanted to try it would be able to. Brands such as Makeup Forever, NARS, MAC, and more recently, Fenty Beauty and Huda Beauty have made fantastic strides in inclusivity. They have made wide ranges of skin-based products. Being that this is 2018 and there is a brand new foundation launch, it really is unacceptable that companies are releasing limited shades and basically making people of color an afterthought. Even though this specific release from Tarte is highlighting this issue and bringing it to light, we know that this has been an ongoing problem for many years, and other brands are still getting away with this. So I really wanted to share in this video my thoughts because despite the fact that my channel is still small and I only started a month ago, I want my viewers to know and understand how important this really is to me and how important it is as a consumer to really speak out. I also want to be clear that I'm not bashing Tarte as a company whatsoever. I have a lot of winning products from them, including their mascara, some of their eyeshadow palettes, and some blushes. So this is not supposed to be a particular jab at Tarte, but their recent launch has provoked this conversation, and I do believe that they need to be accountable for this, and I think that we as consumers are definitely letting them know that this was a big mistake. Since that picture was released to the public and people shared their concerns about it, Tarte has since made a number of statements where they stated that they are deeply sorry and that they are launching 10 more shades in these lines. So I'm actually hoping that their focus is on the deeper skin complexions because then it can really balance out the scale a bit better. But I'm just hopeful that Tarte is going to learn from this. They obviously can hear us and our concerns, and so I just hope that moving forward we will begin to be impressed with them again and they'll start making better decisions with how they're launching products. I didn't want this video to be such a long video of me just chatting and not getting to the products, but at the same time, this is a very important message to me and I know to many of you. So that's why I wanted to first and foremost address that right off the hop. Now, I've been tuning into a couple of my favorite YouTubers' product reviews on this particular foundation. I have seen both the Hydrating and the Matte foundation being reviewed, and I do have some different thoughts on how they've worked for me. I've been very lucky in the past to have had multiple products in the last little while work wonders for me, and I've been able to give you guys some pretty good reviews on those products, but not everything works for me, and unfortunately these foundations did not work for me. However, I do have some surprising thoughts on the Shape Tape eye primer that was also added to the collection, and I don't believe many people have touched on this yet. So if you guys want to know what I thought about both the matte and the hydrating foundations as well as the Shape Tape eye primer, then just keep on watching. So when Tarte released the Shape Tape foundations, they released two different types of foundation. The first being a hydrating foundation and the second being a matte foundation. So both of these foundations retail for 39 American dollars or 51 Canadian dollars each. Right now, I believe they're only available at tartecosmetics.com. I think that Ulta has actually delayed the release of this foundation, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's because of all of the concerns that consumers are having regarding this product. So I'm first going to be sharing my thoughts on the hydrating formula. The packaging is actually incredibly cute. The brand absolutely nailed it when it comes to designing the packaging. We've got the blue ribbon signifying the hydrating formula. We also have the purple tribal print and the gold cap that is also reminiscent of the concealer bottle as well. Each bottle contains 1 fluid ounce of product, and one thing that I noticed was that the shade range is not consistent between the two. So when I bought these foundations, I wanted to get the exact same shade so that I could accurately test these out. And I found that for me, my shade is a light medium neutral. That is typically what I go for in every foundation. I found with the hydrating formula that it actually isn't available in a light medium neutral. So the closest I got was light medium beige. And as you can see, in my opinion, it actually pulls a little bit peach when applied. So I wouldn't call that a beige. It's much more of a peach undertone right off the bat. This foundation is meant for dry skin. And for me, my skin type is a true combination. So I have some dryness to my cheeks, but the rest of my skin is on the slightly oilier side. So I was kind of wondering how this was going to work for me. It also claims that it is a light to medium coverage and that it is buildable. I try to go for a foundation that is as skin-like as possible and that it feels as light as possible, just because it just personally bothers me when I can kind of feel my makeup on my face. So in theory, given that this coverage is exactly what I typically look for, and I have dry cheeks, so perhaps it could half work for me, I actually found that this didn't work for me at all. So I think that this is definitely more suited to a very dry skin type. I found that after applying it, and what I did was I applied it with a beauty blender, it blended well into the skin. I was able to really work my beauty blender and make sure that it smoothed out nicely, but because of the hydrating formula, I was shiny basically throughout the day. I almost had to repowder my face every hour or so. The even bigger problem for me was the oxidization. It literally oxidized within minutes on my skin to the point where I was even building up the coverage, and the layer that I had just applied literally 2 minutes prior was already darker. So for those of you that don't know what oxidization is, basically it's when you start out with a foundation color and it applies a certain color, and then over time it actually darkens. And that's just a reaction with your skin. I have worked with foundations in the past that have oxidized slightly, but if it's a slight color change, you can definitely still work with that. But for this, it just kept getting darker and darker to the point where I'm like, I kind of look like somebody familiar. And I don't really want to look like an Oompa Loompa, just saying. Besides all of that, this foundation also didn't last on my skin very well. It's definitely a plus that it fades nicely in that it doesn't break down in chunks, but that pro, it definitely does not outweigh the cons. There comes a point where you're simply trying too hard to make a product work, so you know it's just not for you. Next, I'm going to be talking about the matte formula. So just like the hydrating formula, Tarte definitely nailed the packaging on this guy as well. So instead of the light blue ribbon, there is the dark purple ribbon, and that signifies the matte formulation. It also has the classic gold cap with the purple tribal print on the lid. And unlike the hydrating formulation, I was able to get my exact shade in this. So this is a light medium neutral. I do think that the shade itself is pretty neutral. It's a slight yellow undertone upon application, so I think it could be a little bit more on the neutral side if I'm being picky, but unfortunately, like the hydrating foundation, this one also fell short for me too. I found when I was applying this foundation that it was buildable, just like the hydrating one, but as I mentioned previously, I actually prefer a foundation that does not feel heavy. This one definitely feels heavy to me. It's a medium to full coverage for sure. You can definitely build it up to a full coverage. Another thing was that it was very hard to work with, in my opinion. Unlike the hydrating formula where there's really some give and you can blend it into the skin, you know, at your own pace, this one is very fast drying, so it's also less forgiving. You really have to work it into your skin really, really fast before it dries, otherwise it will absolutely stay put. It's also not forgiving in that it emphasized any lines that were on my face. It emphasized underneath my eyes and made it dry. It emphasized my pores too. This foundation noticeably made me look older, and that's not really typically something that I'm wanting. This one oxidizes too. It oxidizes significantly, but definitely not as much as the hydrating side. This one is meant for an oily complexion, and because my cheeks are so dry, it was really not forgiving on my cheeks. It kind of broke down in clumps, so there was noticeable chunks of it missing where I could see my skin underneath, and it just looked kind of crackly. It just really didn't look great at all when it was fading away. It also didn't last very long for me. It lasted approximately 6 hours before it started breaking down. These are definitely going to be passes for me. Of course, how these were launched was absolutely ridiculous. I really wanted to be honest with you and share exactly how these panned out. A combination of what I'm typically looking for in a foundation as well as how these are actually formulated just completely clashed for me, and I definitely wouldn't repurchase. Now I want to share my thoughts on the Shape Tape Eye Primer because this little gem actually really surprised me. As you can see as well, it absolutely resembles the concealer packaging. It definitely belongs in the same family. Of course, Tarte nailed the branding and the design when it comes to this as well. And when you take the cap off, it actually applies like a crayon. So the ease of use is definitely there. This primer is available also at tartecosmetics.com and it retails for 21 American dollars or 25 Canadian dollars. This primer is incredibly smooth. It's not super thick or thin. It's kind of like a medium consistency. And because it's a crayon, it's very easy to apply onto the lid, which I love. It sets well with powder and it makes my eyeshadows last all day without creasing. I actually think this is just as good as my Urban Decay primer potion, believe it or not. The only downside, if I'm picky, is that the tip of the crayon is a little bit wide, so at times it's a bit difficult to prime the inner corner of the eye. This is only available in one shade as well, but I think in theory your eyeshadow should be covering this base color if that's what you're using it for. However, I would have liked to see other shades being developed in this formula because there are people out there that just use it to prime their eyelids and then set with powder without actually adding any shadow. So if you're using it for that purpose, then unfortunately it's not going to be geared towards everyone. But if you're using it purposely to go underneath shadow, then I definitely think this is something that I would recommend. So my final thoughts on this collection is that I highly recommend the eye primer. As for the foundations, they are definite misses for me. They're not going to be something I'm going to be buying again. Because of my combination skin tone, I actually did try combining the two because in theory, if one is meant for dry and one is meant for oily, that perhaps they would actually be best on me when mixed together, but it was actually still a fail. The two of them combined didn't help anything at all, unfortunately. So those are my thoughts on this collection. I really wanted to highlight the importance of this issue at the beginning of this video, so if you've stuck around till the end, thanks so much. If you enjoy product reviews, please give this video a thumbs up and let me know. And thanks again to everyone that has subscribed to my channel so far. I'm so happy to have hit my first milestone, which is 100 subscribers. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing so by clicking that red subscribe button down below. I'd really appreciate that. Until my next video, thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day and we'll chat soon. Bye!